How to file a complaint. A simple guide to help you file a complaint in case you have a legitimate problem when buying an item or service. And with you today...
Professor Know-It-All.
Okay, Professor Know-It-All. Go ahead.
Thank you. Well, let me tell you, if you have a problem with a purchase, the first thing you should do is complain to all your friends on social media.
Oh, not at all. I have the Consumer Action Handbook here, and it says that the first thing you should do is inform the seller about the problem. Most complaints are actually resolved that way. And do it as soon as possible because some stores offer limited time for returns and refunds. If your problem is not resolved on the first try, ask to speak with the supervisor or manager. Sometimes it's just a matter of knowing who to talk to in order to resolve the issue.
Well, that's what I was saying. So in other words, if you didn't like the final score of the game you watched last night, you should complain immediately so you can get your money back.
No, it doesn't work that way. I think I'll need to be more clear. Look, Professor, if for example you buy a television set and you carefully take it home, then you unpack it and the screen is cracked, then you should make a complaint at the place where it was purchased.
And if I didn't like the game that I watched on that television, can I return it?
You'll never understand. Back to the topic of how to file a complaint.
You should meet my friend Luis. He's an expert at complaining.
Professor, so if the complaint is not resolved after contacting the seller, you should begin a formal process by writing to the business in question and express your complaint following these recommendations. 1. Start by keeping a record of everything that's happened. 2. Contact the seller or manufacturer. Explain the problem in detail but be brief and to the point, and state whether you want a refund or exchange and how long you're willing to wait for a response. Don't be threatening or rude. That won't help you. Provide your name, address, and your phone number so they can contact you. 3. If the problem does not get resolved, there are various other options that you can consider, like contacting trade associations or national consumer organizations. 4. You can also contact local or state consumer protection offices or the closest BBB.
Oh yes, of course. Big bad business.
No, Professor. The BBB is a Better Business Bureau, which is a non-profit organization that helps resolve consumer complaints.
Now everything is starting to become clear. If I have a complaint about a product that I've purchased, I should call to complain. And if it's not resolved, I should write to the seller. And if it's still not resolved, I should contact the closest consumer protection agency.
Very good, that's right. And by the way, there are also small claims courts in case none of these options resolve the problem. Is it clear now, Professor?
Crystal clear.
Professor, if you have any more questions, visit USA.gov. They will guide you to find contact information for businesses and manufacturers and a sample letter of complaint. You can also download or request a free copy of the Consumer Action Handbook for more tips.
Okay, but I have one more question.
Yes? About the handbook or about how to file a complaint?
No, not that. I want to know if we're done because I'm running a little late for the game.
Yes, Professor. But remember, for more information and to request our free Consumer Action Handbook, visit USA.gov or in Spanish at gobiernousa.gov.
Hi, I'm Marietta Jelks, Editor-in-Chief of USA.gov's Consumer Action Handbook. Welcome to the Facebook Live for National Consumer Protection Week. It is, like I said, National Consumer Protection Week, and we are joined today by Monica Vaca from the FTC, and she's going to share some great tips to help us prevent identity theft, avoid scams, and just protect our money overall. So we're also going to hear some great highlights from their Consumer Synodo Data Book. And we're going to learn what that is, first of all, as well as highlights and top trends to be on the lookout for. Before we get started, we want to remind everyone watching that we are going to take questions. So if you have a question, post it in the comment section below this video. We'll answer as many of them as we can. We want to remind you, we're on the internet, so we don't want your information to be stolen. That would be a bad thing to happen during National Consumer Protection Week. So please don't include your personal information, your email address, phone number, anything like that in your question. And if you don't want to post your question publicly, that's fine. You can send it to our inbox on Facebook, on USA.gov's Facebook post, and we'll answer it as soon as we can. So you have options for sending your questions in. Monica, thank you so much for being here with us. Let's just get started. What is National Consumer Protection Week?
Well, thank you for having us.
Absolutely.
Much appreciated. So National Consumer Protection Week is a coordinated campaign of lots of different agencies, state, local, federal agencies, and organizations that are coming together to try to help people find the resources that they need to protect themselves, stay safe from scams, and learn how to manage their money.
Okay, and it's National Consumer Protection Week, or NCPW. That's for short, right?
That's right, NCPW.
Okay, super. So you're at the FTC. Tell me a bit more about the FTC and what you do as part of NCPW.
So the FTC is the Federal Trade Commission,
okay.
And the FTC works for consumers. We're the nation's consumer protection agency.
Great.
We're a law enforcement agency, and we also put out a lot of really terrific consumer education materials, because as much as we like enforcing the law, we would actually much rather people don't fall victim to scams. That's
great information to have. And the FTC, even though it's right now we're observing National Consumer Protection Week, but you're really working for us all year long, 365 days a year. I know the FTC really has normally a theme or two that you really focus on as part of the National Consumer Protection Week observance. What are those for 2018?
So for 2018, we chose imposter scams,
okay.
and identity theft.
Okay.
So let me tell you a little bit about
Absolutely,
what imposter scams are. So imposter scams is when somebody, maybe they call you, they reach out to you, and they're pretending to be somebody they're not.
Oh, okay.
They might be pretending to be affiliated with the government, a government agency, a court. They might be pretending to be with a well-known business.
Okay.
They might be pretending to have some kind of particular technical expertise. They might even be pretending to be a relative,
oh, wow.
a family member, somebody who's in distress and who needs your help. The goal is always the same. It's always to take your money. So they're trying to use a trusted relationship to try to get money out of you. So that is the first one, are imposter scams. And I'd love to tell you a little bit more about the data in a minute.
Sure.
But the second theme is identity theft.
Okay.
So identity theft, of course, is when somebody misuses your identity for some kind of a benefit for themselves. It could be that they open a new credit card account. It could be that they try to gain employment, but they're misusing your identity. So that is obviously a huge problem.
Absolutely.
We all want to be very careful about that. But we also want to talk about data breaches. There have been
big ones.
Some in the news, and we want people to know how they can get information about how to protect themselves from these data breaches.
That makes sense completely. And then you also do some work just all the time about financial literacy, financial capability resources too, right?
Indeed we do,
okay.
Yes. And so for folks who are looking for some of that more basic information about financial matters, I invite them to come and look at consumer.gov.
Okay.
The consumer.gov resource is really terrific, and it can tell you all kinds of things like how to get your free credit report.
Very important.
Right? Along with many other topics.
You all have such wonderful information. I'm always browsing through everything myself. For us personally here at USA Gov, our commitment to consumer education is still present. We produce the Consumer Action Handbook, which is a book we've put out to help people get information on general information about shopping for products and services and avoiding scams and knowing their rights. We put together, I work on it personally, and as a consumer, as well as a consumer professional, we're trying to give you as much information that I have. I'm trying to share with everyone so they can protect themselves and, make certain that they're getting the best deal they can and not, being a victim of scams. So it's a very important area of topic, and I'm glad to have you guys as a partner in that fight. We want to talk a bit more about this data book. We're going to switch gears a little bit. What is the Consumer Sentinel Data Book? What is this about?
Well, so let me show you a picture of it. Here it is. The Consumer Sentinel Network is an online database. People across the country report their consumer protection problems to the FTC.
Okay.
They report it to the Better Business Bureau. They report it to a number of agencies. All of those complaints come into the Consumer Sentinel Network.
Okay.
And what people are telling us is they're telling us about frauds that they experience in the marketplace, identity theft, the way that their information is misused, and other kinds of consumer protection problems like it could be debt collection, it could be problems with credit bureaus, but they're telling us about what they are experiencing in the marketplace and what's gone wrong.
Okay.
So we collect those complaints, those reports from consumers into the Consumer Sentinel Network database.
Okay.
It's a secure online database. And who has access to it? Law enforcement.
Oh, okay.
Okay, so
Makes
the FTC is a law enforcer. I started by telling you we are a law enforcement agency, but it's not just the FTC, right? There are lots of federal agencies, state agencies, and local agencies that really need to protect consumers from their consumer protection, when they have consumer protection problems. So these reports are available strictly to law enforcement. But we do think that when people have taken the time to report to us a negative experience that they've had in the marketplace, that they're trying to warn other people about what might happen to them. And so every year we put out what we call our data book. And what this is it summarizes what we've heard from millions of consumers for the entire year.
Oh my goodness. Okay. So what did you hear? What types of frauds were like most prevalent in 2017? What did you find out?
Okay, so the number one fraud will not surprise you because we started out talking about it. The number one fraud reported was imposter scams.
That makes sense.
So just backing away from talking just about imposter scams, let me start just sort of bigger picture. Bigger picture, what people told us in 2017 is that they lost $905 million to fraud.
That's a lot of money.
It's a lot of money, and it's more than people told us they lost in 2016, right? So it is a whole lot of money, and those are sort of big picture losses. Those are aggregate losses. But if you want to make it a little bit more meaningful, you can also think about what did individual people lose. So the median amount that an individual person lost was $429.
Still significant, though.
That's very significant for an individual person to lose several $100s to a fraud scheme. So that, to just keep that in perspective, that's just to give you sort of the lay of the land.
That's a good groundwork to start from, yeah, absolutely.
So for imposter scams, again, it was the number one reported fraud by a lot. So I mentioned the big $905 million losses number. More than 1/3 of those losses happened with imposter scams.
Wow, that's a third. That's,
wow. More than a third.
Oh goodness.
So how's it happening? How are people losing money? Okay, so people tell us what happened to them. Most people tell us that the fraudster called them on the phone, and that's how the fraud started. And then the second thing people told us is that when they were paying money, more than a third were paying money by wire transfer.
Really?
Yeah. Yeah. So those are important key takeaways.
Okay, so are there other areas that were significant areas that you got reports about from the public? Any other topics specific that were?
We did, yes. So once again this year, debt collection was our number one complaint. So we got fewer reports about debt collection this year than last year, but it was still number one.
Okay.
And then in the number two position was identity theft. So identity theft continues to be a really big problem.
And that makes sense. So those are your priorities for this year's NCPW. Talking a little bit about identity theft a little bit more. Are there some new trends or new tactics or anything that you all found in this year's research about ID theft?
So what people reported to us in 2017 was a lot of misuse of their identity to commit some kind of credit card fraud, either to open a new credit card account or on an existing account. So we are seeing that increase. What's going down actually is tax identity theft. So we
it's reduced.
It's reduced substantially this year.
That's good, but because it was definitely a significant. I mean, it's still significant, but
it has been big for many years. So there is some good news.
That is good. As far as particular populations, are there any segments of the population that are affected by fraud in a significant way, or seniors, for example, are they affected by fraud in a more significant way than other parts of the population?
So that's such an interesting question. And we did this year for the first time try to break out fraud losses by age group so that we could see how things were going.
Great.
And it was surprising. So what we learned is that younger folks, so folks in their 20s, are reporting losing money to fraud more frequently than people in their 70s and 80s.
That is very surprising. I would not have come to that conclusion at all.
It's very interesting. So, but that doesn't mean that they're losing more either in the aggregate or individually. They're just reporting fraud losses more frequently. So what that means is that when someone in their 20s, or when, I should say, when the entire age group, when you take the entire age group and you count up all of their fraud complaints, 40% of those fraud complaints, they are also reporting that they lost money. Now let's take a look at the 70-year-olds and the 80-year-olds. Okay. For those age groups, of all of the frauds that they report, only 18% of them will they say that they lost money.
Really?
Yes. Yes. So, so it's an interesting statistic, and it tells us that the older folks are doing a really good job of recognizing a scam, avoiding the loss, and then reporting it to reporting it when it happens. So they're doing a great job warning us, and that's actually a really good thing for us.
That's fantastic. We always are a little sensitive to the seniors, being victims. So I'm glad that's great news. And then do you all collect information about what parts of the country are being, victims of fraud or reporting fraud more than others? Or there, upswings in parts of the country or certain states?
Yeah, so we want to be a little bit careful about that, because just because some states are getting more reports doesn't mean that they're more victimized by fraud. This is not a survey. This is all self-reported. So we can't say that a state is more victimized than another state. But what we do have is on our website, and I invite you to look at it, at ftc.gov/Sentinel 2017, you can look at every single state and see how it did. You can also look at metropolitan and micropolitan statistical areas to see how those areas fared. But since you asked me which states had the highest per capita rates, I will tell you. So the highest per capita rate for fraud complaints in 2017 came from Florida, Georgia, and Nevada. And for identity theft complaints, it was Michigan, Florida, and California.
Florida, okay. That's really, you guys have a lot of information and data in this database that you guys were able to pull from. I'm kind of a data nerd, so that's exciting to me. We are going to flip over to one of the types of scams that are out there, Medicare scams. We have a video we want to watch, and so take a look at that and learn something.
A teacher was what I always wanted to be. I got my doctoral degree in early childhood education. My husband and I had a wonderful marriage, and I lost him in September of last year. I got a call from someone who indicated he was from Medicare. They told me that they needed my Social Security number. They needed my bank account number for new Medicare cards. I told them I was not giving them the information and hung up the phone.
There were thousands of consumers affected by this scam. They told consumers that if they didn't provide this information that they might lose their Medicare benefits, and they implied that that would happen pretty quickly.
They called back and I continued to refuse to give them the information, but they would transfer me to someone else who would give me the same pitch they were giving me. I just wanted them off the phone. I gave them the information they wanted.
These telemarketers are professionals. They know what buttons to push. They know what to say to get people to provide their information. If you receive a call from a government agency, be very skeptical. Government agencies don't call consumers to ask them for money. They don't call consumers to ask for personal information.
I think it is very important that all of us continue to learn about scams.
Because of consumer complaints like the one we received from Dr. Bowers, we were able to go into federal court, get a freeze on the defendant's assets, and shut the company down.
I was so glad to even hear that they did win the case and shut the people down.
So I've always thought that, staying up to date on what the most common scams are is really a vital thing to do to stay abreast and not be a victim of scams. But beyond that, Are there things that I can do, or that any of us can do, to avoid being a victim of a scam? Or are there resources that we should be consulting so that we aren't a victim or aware?
Yeah, okay. Absolutely. So knowing what scams are out there is pretty critical to being able to protect yourself. Absolutely. You can subscribe to the FTC's Scam Alerts, which is at ftc.gov/scams.
Okay.
That's one way of keeping in the loop about what kind of scams are out there. We also have a publication that we call 10 Things You Can Do to Avoid Fraud. And this is, it's a pretty small brochure, but it gives you just 10 tips. These are your 10 top tips.
Yes.
What are the things that you can do to avoid losing money? If I can share just a couple of those, one is spot those imposters. They are very convincing, especially when they call you up on the phone. They can try to make you feel afraid, like you've done something wrong. And so it can be somewhat tricky. And so what we ask people to do is just hold on a moment, take a breath before you go running to try to resolve this problem by sending out money or something like that. Take a breath. Talk to somebody you trust, and that person can help you figure out if this is for real or if this is an imposter. You could always Google that phone number, or you could Google the government agency that's supposedly calling you to find out if that's a legit call or not.
That's a good call.
Yeah. So the next one is do online searches. So lots of times people put information out online about their negative experiences. Even if it's not coming into the Consumer Sentinel network, it might be on some other website where people are reporting what kind of problems they had. So take advantage of that. Do a search for the company name if you have some questions about it. Do a search for the phone number you were called from. You might learn some information that can help you avoid losing money.
That's a good idea.
Yeah.
Searching those phone numbers.
The third thing is don't believe your caller ID. So we know that scammers have gotten really good, not just at pretending to be someone they're not, but giving out some other clues that might make you more likely to believe that they're somebody they're not.
Absolutely.
So don't necessarily believe if you see, for example, a 202 area code on your caller ID, that's necessarily a call that is coming from Washington, D.C. It's very easy for scammers to trick your caller ID.
It's so prevalent.
Yeah.
So prevalent. You're like, what? No, I don't know anyone, and it's crazy.
Yeah. Yeah. No, absolutely. And then the fourth point we say is, don't pay upfront for a promise. So sometimes people will ask you for money in advance of actually delivering the good thing you're supposed to get. So don't do that. Don't pay up front for a promise. And then the fifth thing is consider how you want to pay.
Explain that a little bit for us.
So a few minutes ago, we talked a little bit about where people are losing money. And one of the ways that they're losing money is they are wire transferring that money. If you wire transfer money, it's very difficult to get it back. Very difficult to get it back.
It's like giving away cash, isn't it?
It is. Once you've sent it, you might never get it back. You most likely will not ever get it back. So be careful with how you are paying. Always be extra careful if somebody asks you to pay with what we call a prepaid reloadable card, like it could be a money pack or a reloaded or a vanilla card. One of those cards where you have to just read a code to somebody on the telephone so that they can access the money. A much safer way to pay is credit card. Credit card companies tend to offer a lot more fraud protections.
Very true. So speaking of wire fraud, there is a video. You all have produced a lot of great videos, and this is just another one that we definitely want to share with you. So take a look at this one.
Lisa finally won the lottery. The caller told her, "You've won millions. Now just wire $400 for taxes." Eddie sold his camera online, but the buyer sent Eddie a check for more than the selling price. He asked Eddie to wire him the extra cash. Henry found a listing for the perfect rental house. The owner told him to wire the deposit and she would send the house keys. Anita's grandson called to say his wallet was stolen in London. He begged her to send money, but not to tell his mom. What happens next? Well, Lisa sent the $400 to collect her lottery prize, but she never got her winnings. She lost $400. Eddie called his bank. They said the cashier's check was probably fake, and they were right. Eddie didn't deposit the check, he didn't send the money back, and he sold his camera to someone else. Henry wired the deposit for his perfect house. He never got the keys, and when he went to the house, the owner told him it wasn't even for rent. Henry lost his deposit. Anita called her daughter. Her grandson was in college 50 miles from home, not in London, and he wasn't the one who called her. Both Eddie and Anita knew to investigate before sending money. Lisa and Henry learned to do that for the future.
Do you have any more? You said top 10 tips, so you've shared 5 with us. We talked about searching online for the phone numbers or any callers, checking how you pay, and being careful of that caller ID, which can be really misleading. Do you have any more you can share with us?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, sure. Happy to. So one thing that we've learned is that talking to people about fraud, potentially fraudulent offers, scary phone calls that you get, odd emails that you might receive where they're asking for money, talking about that with even one other person can help you avoid losing money. And that's because when you tend to talk about something, you start seeing how ridiculous the offer really is. So talk to somebody. It definitely helps. The next thing is hang up on robocalls. Absolutely hang up on them, because sometimes really what they're just trying to find out is there a live person on the other end of this call?
Yes.
And sometimes they'll say, press 1 to talk to a representative. Press 2 if you want to be put on the their do not call list. Do not press 2. Do not press 1. Just hang up the phone. That's really important. The next thing is to be skeptical about free trial offers. So it's so appealing.
So appealing. I love free stuff.
Yes. When somebody tries to give you something for free. However, you should try to be skeptical about those types of things, especially if they're collecting your financial account information at the same time. It might seem like it's either no risk or low risk. It actually is pretty risky if they're taking your financial account information, because what might happen is you might wind up with recurring charges.
Yes, and those are hard to cancel.
Yes, they
especially if
can
they're
be.
Yeah.
And then the last thing I was going to mention is it's such a common scam, and so we have to just say it every time. Don't deposit a check that somebody sends to you and then wire money back to that person. This happens with some frequency. We see it wearing all kinds of guises, whether it's a mystery shopper or you've gotten a job or something like that. The idea that you have to wire back money out of your personal bank account
that's a red flag.
Yeah, that's a huge red flag, and it can expose you to substantial financial losses.
That makes sense. And you all offer anything in Spanish?
We do.
Okay.
So I wanted to show you a couple of things.
Please do.
These are some resources that we have. We call them our fotonovelas. And they're these illustrated stories about what can happen when people encounter frauds. It could be frauds in their neighborhood. It could be frauds coming in over the phone or over the email. You can review these on our website, and you can order them also from the FTC at ftc/bulkorder.gov. Yeah, did I get that right? Yes. Yeah.
So it's ftc.gov/bulk order. And that would be the perfect place to get those. I read them. They're interesting. They're great scenarios to think about for anybody. So I'm glad you guys are doing those.
Yeah.
I would be remiss since we're talking about Spanish content, I would be remiss if I didn't mention that tomorrow there will be our sister website, gobiernousa.gov, is hosting their own Facebook Live about scams and frauds with the FTC. So if you have questions or thoughts about, interest about scams and frauds, or how to avoid them or prevent them or anything like that, definitely tune in tomorrow. It'll be at the same time, and it'll be on GoBRNOUSA.gov's Facebook page for you there. If you've just joined us, welcome. I'm Marietta Jelks with USA.gov, and I'm joined here by Monica Vaca from the FTC. We've been discussing ways to protect your identity, avoid scams, and protect your money overall. We're also looking for questions from you, so if you have a question, post it in the comment section, and we'll answer as many of them as we can, but please don't post any personal information in your question, just your question. If you don't want to post it publicly, you can always send your question to our inbox, USA.gov's Facebook inbox, and we'll answer it as soon as we can through that. Well, let's take a switch, I guess, about filing complaints. There is a video. Again, FTC has a great variety of videos available. But they're going to help us understand through this video how to file a complaint. So let's take a look.
We all see scams. Even if we don't buy into one, we all get the calls, emails, and letters. Why are there so many? Well, scammers see us all as targets, so they keep trying to get our money, or social security number, or account numbers. And they're good at what they do. They know how to knock us off balance just long enough to take advantage. That's why we need a plan. So if you think you've spotted a scam, what do? First, tell somebody. The call or email might seem urgent, but slow down. Talk to a family member, friend, or neighbor. Tell them the story. Sometimes just saying it out loud helps. Maybe your friend got a similar message or knows someone who has. Or your story might just help your neighbor avoid that scam. Then, tell the Federal Trade Commission. The FTC sues scammers and works to shut them down. When you report a scam to the FTC, investigators use your information to build cases against scammers. Other law enforcement agencies can see the reports too and use them to further their own investigations. Your story makes a difference. Every report is a piece of the puzzle that lets the FTC see the full picture of what scammers are doing, and then stop them. Because scammers don't scam just one person. But you could be the one person whose story tips the balance, stops someone from falling for the scam, or stops the scammer. So tell your story. As soon as you think you see a scam, talk with someone, and then tell the FTC. Go to ftc.gov/complaint to file your report.
All right, you ready? So we talked about what to do in case we are a victim of ID theft, but what should we do to prevent it, to deter being a victim of ID theft?
So there's some very important steps you can take.
Okay.
I'm going to give you some concrete steps. First of all, protect what you have. Lock up your social security card, your password protect your phone, take care of your financial account information.
Okay.
Second, be careful what you share. Why does somebody need your social security number? Ask that question before you just provide it to them. And then the third thing is monitor your credit accounts and shred your documents. You don't want someone going through your trash and identifying all of your personal account information. You can use annualcreditreport.com to order that free credit report.
Okay. Great. And again, we are here as part of National Consumer Protection Week, and if we want it, you guys have shared so much, information that the FTC provides, but you mentioned at the beginning that National Consumer Protection Week is a collaborative effort. So if someone wanted information from any of your partners or other resources as part of NCPW, where should they go to get that?
They can go to ncpw.gov.
Okay, that's short and simple and easy. Monica, you've been great to help us explore consumer protection and frauds and scams the time with us. We did have a few questions we want to see if we can get to. Hopefully no one put their personal information in these questions, because that would be against everything we just talked about. You just mentioned it, but how does someone get their credit report? Again, can you just reiterate that?
Absolutely. They can go to annualcreditreport.com to order their free credit report.
Okay. We're just going to crank through as few of these as we can, or as many of these as we can, I'm sorry. I got a sketchy call or email. Like, how do I report the scam?
So you can report it to the FTC. You can either call FTC HELP, H-E-L-P, or you can go to our website, ftc.gov/complaint, and file that complaint. Let us know what happened.
Please report it. Please do. I think it's really important, especially after seeing all the research they did, how it helps inform so much other work. Is it better to pay with a credit card? I know you said don't pay with the wire transfer, preferably, but is it is a credit card a good way to pay for things?
Yeah, so generally speaking, there are a lot more fraud protections available with a credit card. So that's certainly better than wiring cash.
Okay. Here's a question we get a lot. I got a call from the IRS. Is that a scam?
Okay, so the IRS is not going to begin their relationship with you by calling you. Okay. The IRS will send you a letter if there's if they need to get in touch with you. Now, that's not to say you will never get a call, but they will first send a letter.
Okay. That's a good key, though. They're always going to start with that hard copy letter in your mailbox. How can do you all get refunds for scams? Is that possible?
Yes. So we bring law enforcement cases at the FTC, and a lot of our partners bring law enforcement cases. And when we get money back, we distribute that money back to consumers who lost money.
Oh, really?
We absolutely do.
That's great.
And we absolutely do. Last year, we distributed hundreds of millions of dollars in refunds back to consumers.
That's amazing. That's fantastic. Congratulations to you all. Let's reiterate how to file a complaint with the FTC just one more time.
It's ftc.gov/complaint.
And I'll just do one more. Are there are there any publications to help with fraud? And how can we get them? The publications?
Oh, you can get all of the FTC's print materials by visiting our website at ftc.gov/bulk order. And again, all of those materials are available for free and in bulk in English and Spanish.
Okay, and one last question about how can I remove my phone number from do not call or from scammers particularly? Is that possible to get my phone number off of the list from scammers?
Well, so that's very difficult because scammers are not typically honoring people's requests not to be scammed.
That makes sense. Such wishful thinking.
But people can register their phone number on the Do Not Call Registry, the National Do Not Call Registry, if they don't wish to receive telemarketing calls.
Okay. Great. Okay. Well, I thank you so much, Monica, for being here with us today. You've shared such great, valuable, and practical information for us, especially during this observance of National Consumer Protection Week. A lot of great resources and videos. It's been a great time. So thank you so much for being here with us today.
Thank you for inviting me.
As always, USA.gov is here to help you get consumer information and information on a variety of topics. I mentioned earlier that we do offer the Consumer Action Handbook, which is free, also, like the publications from FTC, and you can visit USA.gov/handbook to order a copy for yourself, your family, your friends, and people in your neighborhood, whoever you like to share it with. And we're really here to just always help you get information you need from the government that's reliable. If you visit us online on USA.gov, through our social media platforms, email, subscription, chat, and by calling us at 1-844-USA-GOV-1. We're here to help you get information you need. We hope that you enjoy this and learn something from it. If you'd like to review this information, this will be on our USA.gov YouTube channel in the future, so definitely check back or share it with a friend. We'd love to have you watch and get the information you need. So thank you for joining us, and we'll see you next time.
You're in the middle of your day and you receive an email. A company or organization is asking you to go to a website to enter your personal information to verify your account. It seems legitimate, but you wonder, is it a scam? While some scams seem obvious, others can be confusing to anyone without the proper information. Having that trusted official information on the latest scams and how to report them is one of the best ways to protect your hard-earned money and safeguard your private information. The Consumer Action Handbook is a free guide that provides general tips, resources, and advice to protect your consumer rights. The handbook has information to help you file a complaint about a purchase and even includes a sample complaint letter, among many other resources. Order or download a free copy for yourself, a family member, or a local organization at usa.gov/handbook.
How to protect yourself from housing fraud. A simple guide to help protect your home and money from scammers. And with you today,
Professor Know-It-All.
Professor, what is this? You're a superhero today?
That's right. Today I come to protect those in need.
Really?
There are lots of scammers out there. A friend of mine almost lost his home because of fraud.
Well, that's true, but you don't need a cape to help. All you really need is to be informed on the topic. Take a look at the information in the Consumer Action Handbook, which, by the way, you can order free at www.usa.gov. It helps protect people and shows how to be on the lookout for housing fraud, like what happened to your friend.
Tell me more.
Before buying a home, you should do a few things. 1. Do some background research on your realtor and lenders. See if others have filed any complaints regarding their professionalism. 2. Take a look at the current interest rates. 3. Verify the rates for 30, 20, and 15-year mortgages. 4. Ask whether the rate is fixed or adjustable. 5. Ask for information about terms and types of loans from various lenders for comparison. And don't forget to ask about all fees up front. Nothing should be added on at the last minute. Never sign incomplete documents. 6. Beware of high-pressure sales tactics. For example, if they say they're the only ones that can get you a certain rate, or if they tell you to act fast because it's the last one on the market. Many times, these companies will say they're backed by the government. Be careful with this. If you have any questions or problems with mortgage payments, you can get help from official and trusted resources. All this information and more is available at usa.gov or in Spanish at gobiernousa.gov or by calling 1-844-USA-GOV1.
Wow, you know a lot. Better take my cape. You're the real superhero.
I'm no superhero. I'm just a person that likes to get informed. I also have the Consumer Action Handbook, which, remember, you too can request at usa.gov. It's free.
I'll do that.
The messages come every day from mothers and sons and teachers and students, from Pennsylvania and Florida and Alaska and New Mexico, showing their appreciation for USA Gov, your guide to government information and services. Every year, USA Gov engages with the American public millions of times over in English and Spanish, providing online information about getting a passport, connecting students, parents, and teachers with educational tools, answering phone calls about how to reach a member of Congress, and guiding people to the hundreds of other services through USA Gov.
Dear Sir, I am 80 years old, and I know I should have started my financial planning a long time ago. I sure can use the caregiver kit you put together.
Gracias por ofrecer información confiable y en español. No fue hasta visitar este sitio que entendí mis beneficios del Seguro Social.
Our mission has never wavered. For nearly 50 years, USA Gov has been a reliable source, providing government information and services to the public.
This was great. I will be returning to kids.gov throughout the year for more kid-friendly information that I can use in lesson plans.
I'm so grateful I talked with a real person from the contact center. Keep up the great work, and I thank God you're there.
Always on the cutting edge, USA Gov has constantly been innovating, adapting, and evolving to better serve the American public through publications, websites, a contact center, and social media. Regardless of the method, USA Gov is here for you, a place for you to turn when you want the latest official government resources in English or in Spanish.
Thanks for helping me connect to timely, useful information I can trust.
You can count on us. Visit usa.gov/explore to see how we guide you to the government information and services you need.